Hey, what's up, everybody? Bdf 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I prayed about it. The Lord said I got time. I'm leaving the house at like 1:39. I got to be back here well before 5 for, of course, the early Laker game as usual. This is not how I like to operate. When I got to go to LA or when I got to make a large grocery purchase, this ain't how I like to do it. I like to get out of the house well before right now. Well before. Because what that does, when it's early games, allows me to get back home and shower and all of that stuff. But I don't want to go locally because I have to grab some rice as well. So if I stay local and do all of this, it's still going to take almost just as much time as going to LA. Because what I likely have to do is walk all the way out the way over here to Trader Joe's and then walk all the way back over here to Target. That actually probably takes the same amount of time as walking down to the train station, hopping on the train, doing all that little stuff that I do there, and then zipping back here and then walking up. So it's almost about the same amount of time in theory. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see how I handle this, because either way, if I'm going to the local Trader Joe's, I'm walking in the same direction right now. And so yeah, it's 1:30. Not ideal, man. I think I can do it, but it's not ideal. So yeah, that's really what's going on. These Laker games, these early Laker games are forever a burden on my life, man. I just be wanting to, have a leisure day. I don't want to have to rush home so I can cover this game. You know what I mean? Like I want to be able to stay out and the Lakers come on at 7:30 and give me an opportunity to do that. So these games are what they are, and we as people who follow the team religiously and cover them and all that, just gotta roll with the schedule that's provided. So that's what's going on, man. Aside from that, I did a lot of praying last night, and I feel pretty good. Lord put some things in my heart to help me with how I was feeling and all of that. And I think at the end of the day, you just gotta know that He's in control, and just keep moving forward regardless of what it is that's coming at you. And for me, a couple of days of a struggle. Mentally, I wasn't where I wanted to be, but sure enough, I don't feel that way right now, because a lot of that prayer that needed to be done. That's one of the reasons why I'm getting out the house later, is because I did a lot of praying this morning before I got out of bed. I stayed in bed till almost 10:30 praying. I probably woke up at 8, but I was just in my meditative state, as I've been doing, and letting the Lord come to me with concepts. And I felt good, man. I just felt like that was the way it was supposed to go. I didn't really care too much about being uniform in regards to how I moved. I didn't even know the game was at 5. I was hoping it would be a little later, since the Memphis Grizzlies are technically in the Western Conference. I was hoping the game would at least be at 6, but I wasn't worried about that when I got out of bed. So as a result, I had to do the Laker video on the game, so it took some time as well that otherwise wouldn't have been taken. So it's just, I was determined to do my day my way, and this schedule kind of threw a monkey wrench in that. So yeah, I just gotta do what I gotta do. But feel good, man. Letting the Lord in. That's really what it is, man. I handled things the wrong way when I felt like this in the past, and I just ain't doing that no more. And you learn your lesson. You turn to God when you have the problems that you have in front of you, and you don't find yourself mad at Him for not doing things your way, because you don't know what comes with what it is you want. As we have talked about over the last several days, I don't know what comes with what. So my perception, thinking I just know, and this is what I want, and I don't know what comes with that. Even if everything is lined up the way I think it should be, something bad could happen because of the process of whatever it is I get coming my way. That ain't got nothing to do with nothing, but because I'm aligned with it, now I'm on the timing that otherwise makes this situation go bad. So it's like, when you start to let the Lord in and let Him work on you, your selfishness, your demands, your feelings, your wants, and all that, as we've been talking about, He starts to insert concepts in your heart that kind of start to numb off what is otherwise extremely sensitive and feelings that you think you need to hold on to. You just realize a lot of those feelings are you exalting yourself, or you protecting against something that otherwise is in his domain to protect you from, or stuff like that. It's like you start realizing a lot of our emotions are riddled in self-exhaustion and a lack of faith. And when you start getting to the nitty-gritty of certain things, it's like that's all you find is something that you need to change within yourself to make you a better person, and or things you need to let him handle because you're perceiving that things can be a certain way from what it is that you hope to receive, but you don't actually know what comes with what. Trusting that he does is what it's all about. And so that's really what I've learned. And in so much meditation over concepts that of course we've already talked about, but it's understanding these things and into working them into practice and into your temperament and into how you perceive things is a whole nother story. And that's why I'm hoping my meditation is starting to coerce me into a space where I think this way. Not that I just understand these concepts, but that I perceive through the lens that these concepts provide, in hopes of helping me function better through whatever way may. And in the event that I'm able to function better, maybe make better decisions than I've made in the past. And that's really what it's about. So yeah, that's really what I'm saying to you guys, man. I'm just hopeful that if anything, we find ourselves in a position to learn from some of the things that I'm talking about in regards to you guys who follow me, and maybe they can help you too. A lot of us believe in God, but we don't have into practice what it is that we understand. We just kind of have those things in the back of our head, and we proceed to live about the world in fear of things that otherwise you already know he controls. So that's the key to mankind. The world is always going to teach us how to be fearful, how to be ambitious, selfish, how to be lacking in faith, how to protect against things that don't have nothing to do with allowing God to take care of things. And that's what we end up having as our default mode, so to speak. And I think we got to reprogram ourselves to think God first, think God positive, and not be so overwhelmed by the idea of a deity looking to punish us for everything we're not strong at, for which is also in a way a worldly deterrent from the desire to submit to something that's better than you, greater than you, and that can help you better than you can help yourself. And so that's how I look at meditation. That's why I'm putting so much time, I don't know where that word came from, so much time into my meditation, so that we can start really working these things into the equation like I'd like to see myself do. So yeah, man, I was up all night. I did not sleep very much in meditation. No, I did not. I don't feel necessarily as tired as one would think when you stay up, but it's because I was in the dark, laying down comfortably in a meditative space, and I woke up in that same mindset. And I just think that's what's really healthy for me right now, and it's simply because I do have such a strong belief in God, and now belief that investing in that relationship is best for me. I've always walked around with a million beliefs in God, like on a million. I believe in God. I know he exists. That the relationship wasn't where it needed to be. Now, granted, one of the things that the Lord told me last night was don't underestimate where our relationship was when you used to live in a space of darkness. Because now I look back on myself, I feel like I didn't have much of a relationship, but the Lord more or less corrected me and said, I was with that version of you too, and you used to pray a lot too back then. So maybe my perception or my memory of my relationship with God isn't as vivid as it should be. Maybe I don't give myself, in my old version of myself, as much credit as to say that I was interacting with God a lot. I really don't think I was. apparently the Lord wants me to feel differently about that old version of myself. But nevertheless, I don't think that relationship was very strong. I think my belief in him was unwavering. I don't think the practice of believing in him was very strong. And that's a different type of thing, in my opinion. I don't think the concepts of what allows him to work through me and to submit to him in a way that I thought of as a positive thing for me was really in place like that. I didn't see it like that. I was more or less looking at God as I said, somebody who's looking to punish you and don't want to really see you do anything that makes you happy or have any fun. And then me just thinking that that's wise because of, this is what my mom taught me. I thought that way, I think, as it pertains to God. And there was a lot of silliness going on in my 20s and 30s. A lot of running from responsibilities, running from pressures, running from accountability, running is how I perceive my old self. And so as I grow older, I just say, okay, in order to undo these long embedded poor cultures, you got to really pour a lot of hours into retraining that brain and mind. And for all of that time that I spent allowing music to train my brain, video games to train my brain, fiction to train my brain, and all these different things, now I'm of the mindset that you got to allow God in for a length of time to also retrain your brain. And this world by default has been doing a number on our heads. For those of us who are in this Western world with all this quote unquote entertainment, and school structure and the stuff they had us reading in school, suggesting concepts into our heads a lot of times that were godless. We got to really pour into God in order to offset all of that. So that's what I call myself doing this era of my life while I have the opportunity to do so, while I see the fruit in doing so, while I've just been taught by way of what I've been through, how important he is to my life. It's like, okay, well, let's start giving him an opportunity to see me in a different light, trying harder, not just putting in a mustard seed, but putting in some of that same effort I put into trying to master other things in my life. And now that I have a relationship with myself as it pertains to this camera, and constantly speaking into it every day, I feel more of a responsibility to make sure that my energy is right, make sure that my thoughts are aligned, make sure that my concepts are allowing me to display the best version of myself into this camera. So that's also a big motivating factor as well. And I think about a lot of what I went through in the past involving myself being alone. How comfortable I was in that space, how many mistakes I made in that space, and how rocked into the comfort I am being alone, and how that's kind of by way of in and of itself kind of cost me certain things that created things in my head that weren't great, or things in my behavior that coerce me into spaces that make me unhappy. Start to realize that a lot of that has to come from not being around people, that kind of thing. And so now that I'm in that space and I have that rocked into my head, if I'm going to be alone as I've been, I got to be talking to God like I should. And that's also part of that meditation last night that was coming to me. It's like, you did spend a great deal of time by yourself. You should be very proud of yourself for getting through that. There are people out there who couldn't have maintained their consistency on different things, or couldn't have pulled themselves out of that. It's just a lot of stuff that I did that I don't give myself credit for, to be honest with you, or think too much about. I'm too busy living in the moment to look at the journey that led to this moment and how I've overcome so much. I thank God for getting me through that stuff, but I don't sit there and ponder on it very much, especially if it was stuff that was tough. Glad it's over with. That's kind of how I approach it. And I think last night's meditation, a good portion of that time was the Lord reminding me of some things that I may have forgotten, and instilled in me a certain level of respect for the person that I was before I got into this space, for which I'm very proud of, what I was standing for, what kind of caused me to be in this position, and how I shouldn't be ashamed of that. I made some mistakes within that, but what I was trying to do overall, which caused me the trouble I had and cost me everything, was stand for something. stand for something. And the Lord was like, this is who you've been. You didn't become this person who stood up for things against the grain as it pertains to others with the genocide. You started that before that with AMC. And so that's what the Lord was telling me, reminding me. And to respect that, you know, he's still proud of a lot of that for which we were trying to accomplish together back then. My relationship with God was pretty strong back then, because some of the time I was listening to that voice on how to go about what I was doing then. You know, and so that's really what it was, and involving God in some of the things that ultimately maybe I probably otherwise wouldn't even involve God in. As we've talked about, like me picking my weed and stuff like that for the morning, like having a million weeds to smoke and asking God to help me pick the right one. Involving him in those circumstances for which it looked back and reminded me of. So, you know, it's a lot of stuff that I can tell you this. When you get to a space where you're proud of yourself, if you haven't been proud of yourself for a long time, what you often forget is the mustard seed of faith that you may have put in before you got out of that darkness. That person in the dark, God ain't forgot who they were when they were doing things he was pleased with too. You may have did them things far and in between, but he never forgot. And so as you start to change and become a better person, you think of your old self as rotten. God will remind you that that person wasn't rotten. That person just hadn't been developed into the person you're becoming. You don't have to hate or down that person just because that person didn't have it all together. Just like you don't need to down people who don't have it all together when you see them right now. For the course that they may be on may have them grow out all these different things that you don't appreciate. And you looking down on them does you no justice. So I think that's really what the Lord was trying to put in my head. It's instilling in me a great deal of appreciation and confidence and pride for the things that I did before I found myself in a position to be pretty dang proud of myself. You know, or whatever you say. So that's the idea. And yeah, man, that's where my head is. I can openly thank God for allowing me an opportunity to have a voice and to be proud of certain things, and for bringing me through some tough love and some difficulties that I now see myself having overcome with a lot of appreciation and pride and humility. And then in the circumstances going forward, I have a certain idea about how I'm going to overcome whatever's next, and how I'm going to handle the path that has often at times led me astray. When it's time to get in the fork in the road and things didn't go your way, perceiving that my way wasn't always the best way, and that the Lord knew better, and that I since have gone through some things that would otherwise allow me to trust him. And then with that comes a certain different level of respect for him. And so and respect for oneself, to love oneself enough to follow down the path that is right this time, and appreciate that the last time you did things the wrong way, it didn't cost you your life. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, there were things that went down that I didn't have to survive. There were things that could have went a certain way. It could have cost me my freedom or whatever. But the reality was, God never had intentions for me to be in those spaces. He intended for me to overcome. And since I stuck close to him, I was able to follow that script, even through some difficulties and some shortcomings or what have you. And so, yeah, man, it's just self-love and appreciation for God. And then furthermore, drawing the line in regards to how you're going to handle things when they don't go your way. Standards that you refuse to lower in regards to what you will accept from others and from yourself. You know, I refuse at this point to lower my standards for my relationship with God and what it means to have that around me with the people that I know and stuff like that. You know, I don't force God on anybody. But at the same time, it's like going forward with the friendships I have, I want the foundation of God to be what aligns me the right way, so that the energies that I put out can often be reciprocated by people who are also going to put out similar energies, and just more people who are open to having relationships with God. Not to say that I just want all my friends to be religious freaks or spiritual freaks, but you know, to be able to kind of align myself with even yokes and find myself surrounded by people who are put in my life for His reasons. You know what I mean? And for His purpose, and ultimately to build something that can be worked with. You know, and that's the truth. You know, like I said, some of my friends, they don't really have a relationship with God. Some of my closest friends don't really believe in God. And a lot of my friendships that I appreciate the most, I don't really get to talk to my friends about those type of things. We don't have the same views on these type of things. And I think I respect all of my friends. You know what I mean? So I don't try to bring them nothing. I know their stance on these type of things, and it was never a deal breaker in the past. And I don't think it should be a deal breaker in the future, but I don't know if I'm the same person. Some of the jokes that I used to laugh at in regards to God, I don't think it's not as funny as me anymore. Some of the things that I thought I could agree with in the presence of them, I really stand on changing in my tune in regards to that now. It's easy to align with people who don't believe in God when you're on the fence about Him yourself, or when you still think it's cute to toy around with Him, or you still think that there's a chance He don't really have your back. And I was thinking about that in regards to somebody I was thinking about as well, who, you know, is trying to establish a relationship with God. And maybe some of the people that are in their life were established in their life before they desired to be in a space with God. And maybe they tether with that relationship, and so some of those friendships remain strong based on that tethering. But if that relationship with God got stronger, how would those friendships go? And when you see somebody go through that transition from being faithless to being on the fence to being faithful, it becomes a situation where you start finding that you are walking into places that those people can't go. You chose them when your spirit was in one place, but now that your spirit's in a different place, those same things that you could get along with and align with, it's going to be very difficult for you to align with now, because your faith is in a different place, because your relationship is in a different place with God. So that's really what I'm saying to you guys. Keep your relationship with God close, and ask Him as you start to do so how to keep being a good friend to people that maybe aren't there yet. How to have Him utilize you in a graceful way in their lives, so that you don't find yourself reneging on what you feel you should for the sake of those friendships, or abandoning those friendships because they don't have that relationship if it's meant that you don't, or finding yourself in a situation where you're just over bombarding them with your relationship, further pushing them away from ever having a possible relationship. That balance, once you start to believe strongly, you start thinking that's the only way forward. Especially in this religion, Christianity, we are told in a lot of facets of our religion that we're supposed to push Jesus on the people. But I know that the devil has inverted that into keeping people away from Jesus. He's taken that energy and he's flipped it in such a way to where people are completely turned off by that. So we got to get with the times if we want to be able to help people in that way. And that's what I've come to understand. I don't want to push religion on anybody, because I don't think it works. And sometimes, depending on what you're pushing, you don't know where you're pushing these people through your religion. You may have a good church. You may be pushing them into a bad one. You may have a good relationship with God. Maybe they start finding religious extremists who are going to have you having a relationship with the enemy indirectly because of your pushing. Or you just push them further toward the enemy like a lot of people feel they do. So that is why I'm like, I asked the Lord to kind of help me with that too. Because a lot of my friendships, they've proven friends. But a lot of what I'm about these days is different as it pertains to my spiritual space. And some things that we related on the most had to do with not having that relationship intact. When that relationship gets stronger, you don't have a desire to really play like that. And that's what it is I'm here to tell you guys. I don't have a desire to laugh at people who saying, I don't believe in God, F God, or whatever they say. Not to say that most of my friends would say anything like that. I don't think they would be that disrespectful, but this is the same premise in a lot of cases. I do what I want to do. I'm laughing at they're doing wrong because it's funny. Like, I'm trying to undo a lot of those cultures in my head, man. I don't think any of that works at all. And as I grow older and more responsible, I definitely don't want to have anything to do with that energy at all. You see what I'm saying? So, in the spirit of trying to be a good person, ever failing, whatever good actually means, you start wondering if you can follow your friends down the same path that they've been on. You start wondering if you can actually go with them where they're going, or if they can come with you where you're going. You know what I mean? So that's ultimately what I've always dealt with to some degree. But the stronger I get into this relationship with God, the more I realize there's some work that needs to be done there. There's a lot of work that's need to be done there. Okay, so I've come to the decision that I'm gonna go to the local traders, try to get everything I need there, because I think I can get everything I need there. And buy stuff like corn and gallon bags and stuff like that. I think I can buy all that there, and if I can't, I could probably just come right back up here and get it at Superior. So that's what I've devised. I will go to the local traders and then just come back up this way if I need to. But yeah, man, that relationship is important with God. That relationship is important with your family and your friends. Sometimes this ain't a friend conversation, it's a family conversation as to which you can't just simply walk away from people, you know what I mean? Some of my friends are family in my head, you know what I mean? So it's not like it's any different in that way. But I don't, what I've started to do is start praying for God to have them soften their hearts to having more of a relationship with Him, as to make it so that it's easier for me and easier for them, or whatever the case may be. Because it's not like I don't understand that God is real. So in the understanding that I know God is real, I don't have to pretend like I can't ask Him directly to improve His relationship with some of the people that I care about. Give them a bit more of a open mind to receive the idea of a living God than maybe they ever have in their life or whatever. Start to show them things and make them say, well, maybe that's all it takes to preserve the friendship or preserve our ability to align with one another in whatever way we do as friends. And I see Him doing that in somebody else's life right now, and as I've been praying on it, I've been seeing Him work. Now, of course, the person has to be open to it, but I'd imagine He's not limited by our desires. He has to say, if you ain't open to it, He can open you up to it, that kind of thing. And the person that I'm praying about improving her relationship with God, I've seen her take steps toward improve her relationship with God. You know what I mean? Since I've been praying about it, for which I didn't see before praying about it. So it's like, if I seen Him work over here, why can't He work over there? So I've been doing that. I've been doing that, man. And I realize a lot of my relationships and friendships are not enriched in a foundation of spirituality or God in anything. It's enriched in times of laughter and picking one another up through good and bad times or what have you, which is great and godly in my opinion. Let's just say that's why I say these friendships are proven. But I don't think we've had many conversations where we align on faith. I don't think we've had many times where we've went to church or something like that. Not that I'm a big church dude, because I'm not, but I don't think that a lot of them friendships have been enriched in anything that has been of God. Not really. Did a lot of sinning together. You know what I mean? Had fun doing it, but I'm trying to see the spiritual side of things and not really look to take on too much fun as I grow older in engaging in folly and sin. It just doesn't hit the same. I'm not stupid to do so anymore. I don't have as much time to waste doing so as I felt I did when I was a young kid. Drinking and all of that stuff, it just don't hold the same weight as you grow older. You know what I mean? And then going out and smoking and all this stuff. Your responsibilities to you, a million different things are much more. Some of them got kids, so they for different reasons probably can't do some of those things. You know what I mean? So like we just all grow older, and for me, I think I'm just growing closer to God. I think that relationship with Him is starting to matter more to me than it ever has, and you know, that's ultimately what it is. So that was part of my meditation too, man. Just like that's why it took so long for me last night to meditate, because I wasn't just thinking about one or two things. My head was going everywhere, and it's been very helpful to be in this space all year long, man. So that's what it's been for me. That is exactly what 2025 has truly been for me. If I could pinpoint anything, honestly, it'd just be a prayer. Because I think I've spent more time praying over the last 5 months, or rather 3 months, since we're about to enter April, than I probably prayed over the last 3 years. To be honest with you, it's been a lot of it, a whole lot of it. And I'm seeing Him work. You know, and then granted, when I say pray, it's different types of prayer. For me, I have to rescind that to say I prayed a lot when I was saying all them names on the list and the bereaved list that I ultimately prayed for over the last several years. That, if you consider that the type of prayer, then I probably played more then than I did here. But when you talk about meditating, I think that's more so the better way to describe what I'm doing. That's different than that. That was more like chanting names and asking God to, you know, hear my chants. This ain't that. This is meditative. This is reflective. This is intuitive. This is me trying to really dig deep into thought. And so, yeah, man, just letting Him work. Not assuming I have 1,000,000 years left. That's what it really comes down to. At this point in time in my life, I don't find it cute to not follow that voice inside of me that tells me where to go, to not keep that voice strong and vet it continuously in prayer as well, asking the Lord to filter everything I got to say to others through Him, so that the good that comes out of my mouth can reach them, and none of the bad, you know, that otherwise would be in my head through poor cultures and poor intentions or whatever. Just really asking Him to like do all of the things that align me with getting things right the first time. And still have a very long way to go. I ain't sitting up here acting like I got that figured out. You know, it sounds good, but putting into practice takes time, takes intention. There are setbacks. A relationship is not linear. You know what I mean? And that's where patience is also in need of being in place. When trying to ask the Lord to have a relationship with people, sometimes people have setbacks. Sometimes you have setbacks when you're trying to improve that relationship. It's not point A to point B. You can have all types of curves and turns and all different types of stuff when it comes to you trying to get closer to God. You can fall a whole 6 stories, you know what I mean? But still have the ability to pull yourself back up, and that you have that relationship means you're stronger when you do. And so that's what it is I'm telling all of you. Let's let God move us in the direction He wants us to go. Believe in Him regardless of what your religion is. Believe in a living God, because you best believe you're getting attacked by the same devil as every other religion. And that is something that needs to be normalized in words toward all of us. We need to understand that. A lot of people, oh, it's a different God, it's a different religion. We don't have the same faith. You're being attacked by the same devil. You're getting controlled by the same devil. So it's like, regardless of whether or not this person has the right God or that person has the right God or whatever the heck you think or believe, the truth of the matter is you're all in the same war. And God is really not going to be sitting back out here in the middle of a big old brawl, stopping to slap you around because you didn't get His name right. And when you look at it through that lens, it makes so much more sense. Too busy. And the devil has been able to utilize confusion and separation, dividing and conquering through that type of stupidity. My God is the right God. Your God is the wrong God. The God is fighting the enemy, and He's continuing to go at God left and right. He's not overly enthralled with the limited understanding that ultimately He provided you with. That's to say that you got it so wrong and now you're so wrong. He made you lacking in understanding on purpose for the betterment of what His vast understanding and wisdom was. He knows what you don't know. He don't expect you to know what you don't know. He created the art of not knowing and knowing. So why would he be overly tunnel visioned on the limited understanding of any one human being in regards to him? If he wanted you to know something, you know it. And so while we may be suffering over that as it pertains to our limited understanding versus our limited understanding in one another and all the different things that we don't know nothing about, his vast infinite knowledge don't have that problem. And so as we obsess over these things stupidly, we need to start evolving to understand that he does not at all obsess over these things. Man wants you to think he does, so you continue to go to their church, pay into their thing. Because that's what a lot of times it comes down to. Self-exhaustion, wanting to be right. You know what I mean? That type of stuff is not, God ain't worried about all that, bro. He is right. You don't have to worry about it. You don't have to obsess over that. You know what I mean? He know you don't know. He made sure you didn't. Why is he obsessing over that? So these are the things that religion is not going to teach you, because religion is too busy trying to keep you in the religion and keep you from sending your tithing money elsewhere. Literally. Fearing that if they don't keep as many people on their side, then they're going to lose something. Lacking in faith in a lot of cases without even realizing or identifying that they're doing so. So that's what I'm here to tell y'all, man. Don't get caught up in obsessing over that for which you do not know, or that for which you understand that someone else may not know, or that who's right or who's wrong. It holds very little weight in the eyes of the Lord. I guarantee you. He doesn't think about that type of stuff as much as religion often teaches us he does. I don't care about that, bro. As long as you're trying, he can find you, bro. Literally. As long as you're reaching out one way or another, he can find you. So let's do away with all this obsessiveness over religion and all of this different stuff. It don't matter, bro. You fighting the same devil. Believe me, you fighting the same devil. Bdf 44. I thank you all for watching.